I called of our engagement because my fiancé lied to his family about us having kids. My fiancé and I plan to get married next year. Despite having a set date, there are still many things to organize and it was causing the both of us a lot of stress. However, now I'm considering postponing or even canceling the wedding because of what he did. When we started our relationship, I told him that I had always been sure I didn't want to have children. In my country, a woman wanting to undergo surgery faces many obstacles, and in most cases, doctors refuse to perform the procedure. This is aside from the complications women experience, unlike male birth control, vasectomy. When I told him about not wanting children, he mentioned he wasn't considering them either. However, when I asked about vasectomy, he admitted hesitating in case he changed his mind. Understanding his perspective, we dropped the topic and went back to our lives. We continued dating for 3 more years, and during a vacation 4 months ago, he proposed on the beach. I revisited the child's topic, thinking that he may have changed his mind, but he assured me that he still didn't want kids. We shared the news with my parents, who congratulated us joyfully. My parents had a similar thinking to mine, they never wanted kids and had me by accident. Anyway, the beginning of the end started when we visited his parents. Before we visited them, he told me to avoid all conversations that would lead to having children because he knew it would end up in an argument. He was the youngest with 2 older brothers and 1 older sister, all married with many children. During the dinner, we celebrated our visit and announced our engagement. Most conversations that followed revolved around wedding preparations and smaller details, but things took a turn for the worse. His sister asked us how many children we were planning to have and I was stuck. I remembered my husband telling me to avoid this conversation, but I was unsure of how to respond. We typically said we weren't certain, but I didn't want to lie. Considering the big step we were taking, I felt like we needed to be honest to prevent future issues. My fiancé stepped in and mentioned we would have only 1 child. His father and one of his brothers started teasing him for wanting just 1, suggesting we should aim for at least 3 so we could experience the joy of a large family like everyone else. He laughed along with them, making jokes about wanting more if I didn't make it difficult for him. I planned to discuss it with him after dinner, but after the last comment I couldn't hold my thoughts in longer. I dropped my plate and stood up, asking him to join me in the backyard. It took him a moment but he followed, avoiding direct eye contact. He questioned my rude behavior but I ignored him. I asked him about what he had said about having children and he gave me a stupid response saying, I said that to avoid arguments, you know I don't want kids. I insisted that we should be truthful to each other or else our marriage wouldn't work. He looked at me all confused and it was obvious that he was keeping secrets from me. I told him I wouldn't go along with the lie and turned around to leave. He then revealed he had changed his mind about having children and now wanted several. He had been thinking about it for months before proposing, but never asked me. I reminded him of our previous conversation and he admitted that he hoped to convince me after marriage. I told him I wouldn't change my mind and that he should have been a real man and not lie to me. I asked him if he had any idea the amount of problems we would have had if he told me this after marriage, one of us would die. He felt like he was being pressed so he started insulting me, calling me a selfish person for wanting to deprive him of the best experience and God's greatest gift. I told him that he was being hypocritical and that adults couldn't change their minds within weeks. I then went back inside and revealed the whole truth, telling everyone that I would never have kids, no matter how much anyone forced me. My fiancé's family looked at me with disgust but I couldn't care less about their opinions. I packed my bags and left back home. A few hours later I checked my Instagram and noticed how his entire family unfollowed me. I kept getting calls from my fiancé but they were pointless to answer. I wasn't going to marry someone whose parents didn't accept me.